Hello, hello! I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. This is a bonus episode, and in it I'm giving my mostly spoiler-free review of the new live-action series Cowboy Bebop. 3, 2, 1, let's jam! While my feed has been inundated with Wheel of Time reviews, discussions, and videos, I wanted to bring attention to a different show which dropped last Friday as well. Namely, the space western jazz romp known as Cowboy Bebop. This is a live-action remake of a 90s anime set in the far future, yet it immortalized jazz and the 70s martial arts films of a bygone era. Having only watched the first 2 episodes, I'm keeping my initial impressions short, and I'm going to describe how this series tells its story. I may lose my nerd card here, but I was not enthusiastic about the live-action remake. I used to run home from the bus stop so that I could catch Cowboy Bebop on Toonami, and when I had after-school activities, I would always be disappointed that I would miss out on that block of solid anime. Needless to say, I was hesitant after being burned so many times with live-action remakes of classics that I love. Having watched the first 2 episodes on Netflix, I can admit that I was wrong. Cowboy Bebop is about 2 bounty hunters rounding up criminals across our solar system as humanity spreads to the stars. Spike is an ex-syndicate member trying to flee his past of organized crime, and Jet is an ex-cop who is also trying to avoid and not run afoul of organized crime syndicates. In the live-action adaptation, neither of these characters know the other's backstory, which could lead to some interesting points of drama or conflict in the future episodes, so I'm interested to find out how that plays out. This show felt like its own live jazz improv performance. Some of the notes and emotional beats played oddly and felt chaotic and unorganized at times, yet the ensemble mashed up together perfectly. Mwah. Scenes hit hard and lingered in their emotional peaks as inevitable tragedies refused to be avoided. These were offset by the comedic moments, which were fast and loose. The fight scenes and choreography tell their own self-contained stories, from the physics-defying fights that showcase each of the characters' unique fighting styles and fancy footwork and how each of them adapt in their own different ways to their surroundings. The smooth method of storytelling is never interrupted. The introduction of those 2 main characters, Spike and Jet, happens in less than 5 minutes. I learned everything I need to know about them and their portrayal in the first few seconds of that opening fight. Spike seems to be calm and collected, yet it's his recklessness that cost them a few of the bounties in the opening scene. In fact, he's lucky to be alive after instigating one of the terrorists into blowing a hole in the side of the spacecraft they were in. Though Jet's introduction was him crashing through the ceiling and he headbutt one of the terrorists almost instantly, he is the more level-headed of the pair. He gets Spike where he needs to go and saves him with his quick thinking. All of this is told to us without outright telling us through the visuals of that first fight. And I absolutely love it when a medium has enough faith in its audience to not hold our hands. For example, the second episode expanded on the universe in ways the anime never did. In it, a scene takes place at a neutral bar to demonstrate the delicate balance between the criminal and law-abiding elements as they both come together to appreciate art. These tiny story beats weave a pattern of barely managed control in a mostly lawless society left in the wake of an uninhabitable Earth, all while blurring the lines between right and wrong. It never tells us, but rather shows us how society is standing on a razor's edge, teetering over ruin. The series did make a misstep with Spike's flashbacks about Julia in the first episode. It was as though the series didn't trust itself to hook us on the mystery of Spike's backstory without spoon-feeding us some flashback scenes to try and draw us in. Spike's former love interest Julia was more fully introduced in the second episode, meaning that they didn't even need to include any of those out-of-context flashbacks from episode 1. Those breadcrumbs felt entirely unnecessary and really didn't do much to stir up the mystery unless you already know what's coming in the story after having watched the anime, so those flashbacks didn't add anything in. The history between Julie and Spike was hinted at perfectly without going into those dun 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 moments in episode 1. Overall, the fight sequences are spot on, and there is great buddy cop rapport between John Cho's Spike and Mustafar Shakir's Jet. The soundtrack isn't as pronounced as it was in the anime, yet the original composer Yoko Kanno returned to provide the score for this series as well. For those who like sci-fi or jazz or martial arts and guns, give this series a try. I will watch the remaining 8 episodes, and if I change my mind, I'll post a follow-up video. But for right now, Cowboy Bebop gets the Running to Right seal of approval, which, means virtually nothing, but you should still watch this. It is a lot of fun. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in this bonus episode of Running to Right. If you enjoyed this review, then please punch those like and subscribe buttons. Let me know in those comments what you thought about the live-action version of Cowboy Bebop, or if you want to just rant and rave about how amazing the anime is. Do you agree with my opinions, or is everything I said wrong? I post my running and writing progress on Instagram and Twitter, and there is now a Facebook group page for Running to Write, so follow me and join in with your own thoughts. See you next time, Space Cowboys. Until then, relive your favorite childhood shows and see if they still hold up.